Hey everyone, today we're going to be making a spreadsheet to work out your net worth and help you keep a track of how it grows over time. I made a previous video on working out your taxes on shares, which hopefully has your shares portfolio in it already. If you haven't watched it, I'll leave a link in the description as a starting point. But you don't need it if you don't own any shares. It's just a great starting point if you do, because we can just sum up the current value column to easily get the total value. I can actually see a few people currently looking at this sheet, but that's all good. They can just get a live view of this video. Now, let's get started. So I've already started the logo and the title in it, but you're welcome to delete that or name it whatever you want. I don't really mind. Okay, so we're going to start with our net worth, obviously. And our net worth is made up of your assets column and also a column for your liabilities. And what we'll do is we'll make the assets column a bright green color, and the liabilities we'll use as a universal red. Now we'll sort all these into categories. So obviously the first one that we already know is our shares portfolio from the first sheet. So in the assets column, we're going to have our portfolio, which we are going to grab from the other sheet. And we're going to grab the sum of all the values in column N of the other sheet. And that's the value of your shares portfolio. Now in the liabilities column, we might have, for example, a margin account where people borrow money to buy shares. We'll call this margin liabilities. And you can enter this manually based on your brokerage account. The next category of your net worth, which will be a big contributor, is in real estate. So you might have your principal residence, which you use as your primary home. Let's say we'll put in a value of $800,000. Now on your principal residence, you might have a mortgage on this home. And let's put in a value of typically 80% of the home's value, roughly. So roughly about $600,000 as an example. Now, in addition to your principal residence, you might, for example, have an investment property. Let's call it investment property 1. And let's say that it's worth $600,000. And of course, you also have a mortgage on this, generally. Let's say, again, we have an 80% mortgage rate on our investment 1, and we'll have a value of $500,000 in our liabilities on investment property 1. Any further investment properties that you might have, let's say, for example, a second one, you can just enter in the next row. Let's say an example of another one valued at $500,000 with a mortgage on it of $400,000. And of course, if you have more, just continue to enter all of these in. Now, I know not everyone has investment properties or even a principal residence, so feel free to leave those blank if they don't apply to you. Something that is relevant to everyone would be a bank account. The most common account being a savings account. So let's put a savings account with a value of $1,000 in our balance. Another common account that people might have is an offset account, which they put money in to reduce the interest on their mortgages. So let's say, for example, someone has $20,000 in their offset account in our example. Now, bank accounts as a liability account generally include things like a credit card account. Let's say we have $1,500 in our credit card owing. Another liability would be, for example, a personal loan. Let's say we have, $3,000 owing on a personal loan. That pretty much covers the majority of all the bank accounts, but again, feel free to add in more types of accounts as you see fit. The next category is your superannuation or your retirement account. So in your super account that you hold, for example, with a managed fund company, for example, an AMP or an Australian super or whatever retirement account you have, let's put that as our super account with a value of, let's say, $30,000. If you have a self-managed super fund in addition to this, you can also put this in as well. The last thing that I'm going to include in this net worth calculator is your personal property. So this might include things like your personal car. Let's value this at, say, $5,000. You might have a second car. Let's put a second car in, valued at, say, $6,000. I would usually limit this to cars only, but if you want, and if you have some things that are more valuable, for example, your shoes collection or your handbags that are worth many, many thousands of dollars and you're collecting so that you can sell at a higher price in the future, then feel free to add these in. You can add your valuables, you can add your furniture. But in my case, I usually leave these out because they tend to fluctuate and it's difficult to get a gauge on their actual values. Our final category is something we're just going to call miscellaneous. And this can be something, for example, if you run a business where the business will have a value as well if you were to sell. But again, if you don't have a business, then you can just leave this blank or just make it 0. Now, in this miscellaneous category, a very common liability that some people will have is a student loan. So let's say, for example, you have a student debt of around $10,000. Let's put that in. And that should cover the most common contributors to your net worth. Now, all that's left to do is to put the formulas that sum up all the contributors to your assets in the assets field and sum up all the contributors to the liabilities field as well. And that means, let's just make our net worth blue, that our final net worth value will be our assets figure minus our liabilities figure. So in this example person, we have a net worth of $465,000. Now on the right hand side here, let's add a history column so that every point in time, for example, on a monthly basis, you can see what your net worth will be and you can record this with a date next to it. So we'll have a date and a value column. So I'm recording this on the 26th of August 2020 and we're going to have a value of $465,000. So over time, as you update all of this, for example, on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis, just change the value of all your assets and liabilities in each of the categories and the net worth field will update by itself. And then simply just put the date that you're recording it in and copy the net worth that you get from the spreadsheet. And that's how you work out your net worth. To put your own numbers into this spreadsheet, go to File and make a copy so that it saves it to your own Google Drive. Don't request access to edit this spreadsheet because if you're editing it, that means everyone can see what your own figures are. But if you make a copy and then edit it on your own drive, then it's private and no one can see and you're simply using my spreadsheet as a template. So, was your net worth around where you expected it to be? Was it more or was it less? Let me know in the comments below and drop me a like if you enjoyed this video. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.